Good evening. Tonight, we delve into a profoundly significant and often contentious question. Do the benefits of genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, outweigh their potential risks? This is a subject that resonates deeply, touching upon the very fabric of our food security, environmental stewardship, and public health. To navigate this intricate terrain, we are joined by two distinguished experts, Dr. Eleanor Vance, an eminent geneticist and proponent of GMO technology, and Mr. Samuel Green, a dedicated environmental advocate who approaches GMOs with considerable caution. Each speaker will present opening statements, followed by rebuttals and a moderated discussion, culminating in closing remarks. We anticipate a respectful, intellectually stimulating discourse. The complexity of this issue cannot be overstated, and we hope tonight's dialogue illuminates the multifaceted arguments involved.
Thank you, Ms. Dubois. Genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, represent a pinnacle of scientific ingenuity, offering elegant solutions to some of the most pressing global challenges we currently face. At its core, genetic modification allows us to make precise, targeted improvements to an organism's characteristics, improvements that could take decades, if not centuries, to achieve through conventional breeding, if at all. Let us demystify. This isn't about creating frankenfoods, but about leveraging our understanding of genetics to enhance agricultural productivity and nutritional value sustainably. Consider the tangible benefits. Crops engineered for increased yields can help us feed a burgeoning global population, projected to reach nearly 10 billion by 2050. We see biofortified crops, like golden rice, designed to combat debilitating vitamin A deficiency in vulnerable populations. Furthermore, innovations such as Bt crops, which produce their own insecticide, have demonstrably reduced the need for broad-spectrum chemical pesticide applications, thereby lessening the agricultural footprint on the environment. Plants can be engineered for enhanced resistance to drought, salinity, or devastating plant diseases, crucial adaptations in an era of climate change and diminishing arable land. It is imperative to understand that these organisms undergo exceptionally rigorous testing and stringent regulatory oversight in most developed nations before they ever reach the market or the environment. While I acknowledge that any novel technology invites scrutiny and potential concerns, these are, in my professional view, largely manageable and often magnified beyond their empirical basis when juxtaposed with the incontrovertible and substantial benefits GMOs offer humanity.
Thank you. While Dr. Vance paints an optimistic picture of technological prowess, I must urge a more circumspect and holistic perspective. The unbridled enthusiasm for genetically modified organisms often overshadows the profound and potentially irreversible risks they pose. My primary contention is that the long-term ecological and human health ramifications, coupled with significant socioeconomic inequities, are far too substantial to be summarily dismissed or considered merely manageable. Let us consider the ecological gamble. The introduction of novel genes into complex ecosystems carries the inherent risk of gene flow to wild relatives, potentially creating herbicide-resistant, quote, superweeds, or conferring unintended advantages that could disrupt natural balances. We've witnessed the troubling development of insecticide-resistant pests in response to Bt crops, necessitating even stronger or more varied chemical interventions. The impact on non-target organisms, such as the well-documented concerns regarding monarch butterflies and milkweed affected by herbicide-tolerant cropping systems, cannot be ignored. On the human health front, while acute toxicity might be assessed, the long-term consequences of consuming these novel proteins and genetic constructs remain an area of insufficient independent research. Issues of allergenicity and subtle, cumulative toxic effects are legitimate concerns that current testing methodologies may not fully capture. Beyond the biological, The socioeconomic implications are deeply troubling. The dominance of a few multinational corporations in the GMO seed market raises serious questions about food sovereignty, the viability of smallholder farming, and the ethics of patenting life itself. I advocate not for a Luddite rejection of progress, but for a robust application of the precautionary principle, and a far greater investment in agroecological farming methods, systems that work in harmony with nature rather than seeking to dominate it through reductionist technological fixes.
Mr. Green raises several points that, while commonly voiced, often lack the full scientific context or misinterpret the comparative risks. Regarding ecological concerns, such as gene flow, it's crucial to understand that this is not unique to GMOs. It occurs in conventional agriculture too. However, with GM crops, specific mitigation strategies, like buffer zones and trait selection, are often implemented. Moreover, studies, including extensive meta-analyses, have shown that Bt crops have actually led to a significant reduction in broad-spectrum insecticide use globally, which is a net positive for biodiversity, including non-target insects, when compared to the alternative chemical deluges. On the matter of health, the overwhelming consensus from prestigious scientific bodies worldwide, the National Academies of Sciences, the World Health Organization, the American Medical Association, to name but a few, is that currently available GMOs are safe to eat. The concept of substantial equivalence is often misunderstood. It's a starting point for safety assessment, not the end point. It establishes that the GM food is, in all relevant compositional and nutritional aspects, as safe as its conventional counterpart, after which any new protein is rigorously tested for toxicity and allergenicity. As for socioeconomics, GMOs can, and do, empower farmers by providing tools to combat devastating pests and challenging environmental conditions, thereby improving yields and livelihoods. Intellectual property rights, while a complex issue, are standard across many innovative sectors and serve to incentivize the considerable research and development investment required to bring these beneficial products to fruition.
Dr. Vance champions the scientific consensus, yet such consensus can sometimes reflect prevailing paradigms rather than incontrovertible, timeless truth, particularly when research funding and institutional priorities are considered. Regarding the purported benefits, the real-world impact of GMO yield increases is often debatable and highly contingent on regional factors, access to inputs, and agricultural practices. It's not a universal panacea. The argument that GMOs like golden rice are singular solutions to malnutrition simplifies a deeply complex issue rooted in poverty, distribution, and access. Golden rice itself has faced significant hurdles in adoption and efficacy, demonstrating that technological fixes often fall short without addressing systemic problems. My skepticism regarding regulatory bodies stems from a well-documented history of corporate influence in regulatory processes across various industries. The long-term efficacy and true independence of these bodies in the face of immense commercial pressures must remain an open question. We have seen instances where assurances of containment or limited impact have proven overly optimistic, leading to unintended ecological consequences. Therefore, the call for more independent, publicly funded, long-term research, divorced from corporate interests, is not an obstructionist tactic, but a fundamental requirement for responsible innovation. We must ask if the focus on genetic modification diverts crucial attention and resources from more holistic, resilient, and equitable agroecological approaches that have proven benefits for both biodiversity and food sovereignty.
Thank you both for those compelling rebuttals. Dr. Vance, I'd like to pose a question to you first. While the scientific consensus on the safety of currently approved GMOs is indeed robust, as you've highlighted, how do you propose the scientific community and industry address the pervasive public distrust and the deeply felt ethical concerns surrounding the technology, particularly regarding the concentration of power and corporate control over essential food resources?
That's a critical question, Ms. Dubois, and it touches upon the epistemological gap between scientific understanding and public perception. The distrust is multifaceted, often stemming from a lack of transparency in the past, a general apprehension about and unnatural interventions, and legitimate concerns about corporate consolidation. Addressing this requires a multi-pronged strategy. Firstly, enhanced and continuous public engagement is paramount, not merely disseminating information, but fostering genuine dialogue, listening to concerns, and demystifying the science in accessible language. Secondly, greater transparency throughout the research, development, and regulatory processes is essential. This includes open access to safety data where feasible and clear labeling to respect consumer autonomy, though the nature of such labeling is itself a complex debate. Regarding corporate control, while intellectual property incentivizes innovation, we must also explore models that ensure equitable access to these technologies, particularly for developing nations and smallholder farmers. Public-private partnerships, patent pools for humanitarian use, and continued public sector research are vital to counterbalance corporate dominance and ensure benefits are widely shared.
Thank you, Dr. Vance. Mr. Green, a question for you. Given the escalating and undeniable challenges of climate change, with its attendant droughts, floods, and emergent pests, and a continuously growing global population, if we are to critically limit or eschew GMOs, what truly scalable and equally effective agricultural innovations or systemic changes do you propose to ensure global food security without necessitating further extensive environmental degradation, such as deforestation for agricultural expansion?
That is indeed the crux of the challenge, Ms. Dubois. My advocacy for agroecology is not a call to return to some romanticized, inefficient past, but rather to upscale and innovate within a framework that prioritizes ecological resilience and social equity. Scalable solutions lie in diversifying our agricultural landscapes, moving away from monocultures towards polycultures, integrating crop livestock systems, and championing techniques like conservation tillage, cover cropping, and sophisticated crop rotation. These methods demonstrably enhance soil health, sequester carbon, improve water retention, and reduce the need for synthetic inputs. Furthermore, investing in farmer-led research and participatory plant breeding, which leverages local knowledge and biodiversity, can develop locally adapted, resilient crop varieties far more effectively and equitably than a centralized, top-down GM approach. Reducing food waste, which globally accounts for a staggering percentage of all food produced, and shifting towards more plant-based diets in affluent nations would also dramatically alleviate pressure on our agricultural systems and natural resources. It requires a systemic shift, not just a technological one. In closing, I implore us to look beyond the seductive allure of quick technological fixes. The narrative that GMOs are an indispensable tool for feeding the world often masks a more complex reality of corporate control and ecological uncertainty. My arguments today have centered on the critical importance of the precautionary principle. When dealing with systems as intricate and vital as our ecosystems and food supply, the burden of proof for safety and efficacy must be extraordinarily high, and long-term, independent scrutiny is non-negotiable. We need a paradigm shift towards a more holistic, ecologically sound approach to agriculture, one that values biodiversity, empowers local communities, and fosters resilience from the ground up. This calls for unwavering commitment to transparency in research and policymaking, robust public participation in decisions that affect our collective food future, and a genuine exploration of agroecological alternatives that are already showing immense promise. Ultimately, the question is not merely about scientific capability, but about wisdom, foresight, and the kind of agricultural legacy we wish to bequeath to future generations. Let us choose a path that nourishes both people and planet, sustainably and equitably.
As we conclude, I wish to reiterate that the case for genetic modification in agriculture is built upon a robust foundation of scientific evidence and a clear potential to address some of humanity's most formidable challenges. We have explored the compelling benefits: crops that can thrive in harsher conditions, offer enhanced nutrition, and reduce the environmental toll of farming by minimizing pesticide use. These are not trivial advancements. They are vital contributions to a sustainable and food-secure future. The rigorous oversight and extensive testing these technologies undergo are designed to ensure safety, and the global scientific consensus supports this. To dismiss GMOs wholesale is to turn our backs on a powerful tool for positive change, based more on apprehension than on evidence. Innovation, when managed responsibly and guided by ethical considerations and transparent practices, is not something to be feared, but to be embraced. It is a cornerstone of human progress. My hope is that we can move beyond polarized rhetoric and engage in constructive dialogue, recognizing that genetic modification, as part of a diverse toolkit of agricultural practices, can play a significant role in helping humanity create a more resilient, nourished, and sustainable world for all.
Thank you, Dr. Vance, and thank you, Mr. Green, for your exceptionally insightful contributions, and for engaging in such a vigorous yet respectful debate this evening. We have heard compelling arguments from both sides. Dr. Vance articulating the scientific promise and demonstrable benefits of GMOs in tackling global challenges, and Mr. Green underscoring the critical need for caution, ecological integrity, and equitable food systems. It is evident that the path forward is complex, requiring ongoing research, open dialogue, and careful consideration of scientific, ethical, and socioeconomic factors. We encourage our audience to continue to explore this vital topic, to critically assess the information available, and to engage thoughtfully with the future of our food. This concludes our broadcast.